Good morning, Canada. Welcome back to the question period. Today is June 9th, 2025, and we've got a lot to take a look at. Whatever's going on in the House, which is always semi-exciting, but also Mark Carney has still failed to deliver a budget, but he is meeting Canada's requirement for NATO's defense spending of our 2% GDP. So, yeah, there's that. But also, where's the money coming from? Like, that's phenomenal that we're finally meeting our minimum requirement for our defense spending. Hooray. Like, that genuinely is something that I can finally say, hey, good job. But the back end of that is, where's the money coming from? Is this tariff money? Is this taxpayers' money? Like, where's the money coming from? We need a budget, and we need it for a reason. But we're going to be taking a look at that as long as we got time before question period, which it seems like we do so far. And for those that were patiently waiting, yes, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry. Had to get myself a coffee, you know, like it is what it is, right? Cheers to those drinking coffee. Without further ado, let's get into this video. But actually, I asked you guys to hit the like button and subscribe. Why not do that? It's free to do. You know what? Let's start off by doing that. You should all take the time right now to hit the like button on the live stream and subscribe. Let's see if we can get the channel, House of Canada, up to 130,000 subscribers sooner than later. Now, which one are we going to take a look at? Let's start with this announcement right here, because this is kind of wild for Mark Carney to be already pledging for us to meet 2% GDP. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but where's the money coming from, bro? Okay, here we go.
We're able to read it out. It is a pleasure. There's no better place to have this announcement, this discussion, than the Monk School. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. You know, this institution, over the course of the past two decades, faculty, students, graduates have helped shape Canada's domestic policies, our geopolitical strategies, and of course, beyond our shores as well. And we wanted to make this announcement here because your insights here at Monk have never been in more demand than at this hinge moment in our history. Threats from a more dangerous and divided world are unraveling the rules-based international order. An order that was fused by the settlements at the end of the Second World War and the end of the Cold War, an order on which Canada has relied for longer than many of our lifetimes. And while the consequences of these developments are profound, we have agency. We have agency in determining what comes next. Canada can work towards a new international set of partnerships that are more secure, prosperous, just, and free. We can pursue deeper alliances with stable democracies who share our interests, values, principles, and history. And we can help create a new era of integration between like-minded partners that maximizes mutual support over mutual dependency. A new system of cooperation that promotes greater resilience rather than merely a quest for greater efficiency. Now, we can aspire to such a world, but aspiration without effort is just empty rhetoric. If we want a better world, we will have to make difficult choices and work harder than we've had to in decades. Government must start by fulfilling its most fundamental role, which is to defend Canadians. And the primary focus of my remarks today will be the nature and scale of what that will require in this new age. But first, let me stress that there can be no true security without economic prosperity. And that's one of the many reasons why so much of the energies of Canada's new government is dedicated and will be dedicated to transforming our economy to become the strongest in the G7. Getting there will...
I hate when they say that, because that completely negates the fact that America is also part of the G7. And if we're just objectively, facts over feelings, if we're just objectively comparing Canada's economy to the American economy, we're not going to be stronger than the American economy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying that, but it's just not going to happen. Not anytime soon. Not in our lifetime. I'll tell you that. Right? America would have to be completely destabilized. Canada would have to, actually not be a cuck of a country and unleash all our natural resources. If there's any need for that anymore, it seems like a lot of people are doing that. So we're late to the party. I don't know. But being the strongest economy in the G7, yeah, it sounds great. It's like saying you're going to be the best player in the NHL, but Connor McDavid is also there, and so is Austin Matthews. Like, yeah, just be realistic. Just be honest. We're going to be good. We're going to be better than 7th place. We'll be like 3rd in the G7. How about that? That's a little more realistic.
Require doubling the rate of home building, creating one Canadian economy out of 13, realizing our full potential as an energy superpower, pursuing a host of other nation-building projects, and diversifying our international commercial relationships with reliable partners. None of these goals will come easily or quickly. All will require ambition, collaboration, and yes, on occasion, sacrifice. Not just by the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. A more confident, united Canada, a stronger Canada can help transform this age of disorder into an era of prosperity for all Canadians. And simply put, if we want a more reliable world, we need a stronger Canada. If Canada came of age at Vimy Ridge, we matured in the decades that followed D-Day. Depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, le Canada a affirmé son indépendance. Nous avons forgé notre propre identité et de nouvelles alliances. De plus en plus, nous nous sommes éloignés du Royaume-Uni et nous nous sommes rapprochés des États-Unis. Nous sommes restés aux côtés des Américains tout au long de la guerre froide. Prédominant. With the fall of the Berlin Wall, the United States became the global hegemon. Its gravitational pull on Canada, always strong, became virtually irresistible and made the U.S. our closest ally and dominant trading partner. But now, the United States is beginning to monetize its hegemony, charging for access to its markets and reducing its relative contribution to our collective security. In parallel, the world's trade routes, allegiances, energy systems, and even intelligence itself are being rewired. Rising great powers are now in strategic competition with America. A new imperialism threatens. Middle powers must compete for interests and attention, knowing that if they're not at the table, they're on the menu. Indeed, the threats that Canada faces are multiplying. Hostile powers, including foreign governments and non-state actors, are transcending geography to threaten our sovereignty. Terrorist entities have developed new capabilities and expanded their reach to challenge global security and put our communities at risk. Cyber attacks from the other side of the world can undermine our government, bankrupt our businesses, and paralyze our infrastructure. Et plus de leur capacité en ce qui a trait à la cybersécurité,
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be talking a whole lot of French. I see some people saying that there's something wrong with the sound, and I just checked on my phone, ladies and gentlemen. So sometimes YouTube has this weird thing where there is sound and there isn't sound, and it glitches. The stream's running perfectly fine. The internet connection's fine. All levels on my end are fine. All I had to do was refresh my YouTube app. I close it, I reopen it on my phone, or if you're on your TV, just try and do the same thing, and it works absolutely fine. I don't know why I get cherry picked on, but it's working fine, ladies and gentlemen.
Capacité militaire traditionnelle d'État. Long-held view that the long-held view that Canada's geographic location will protect us is becoming increasingly archaic. Threats which felt far away and remote are now immediate and acute. And as our climate changes and the polar ice recedes, Canada's Arctic is becoming more accessible and more vulnerable to commercial and military activity. We've been jolted awake by new threats to our security and sovereignty, including from an emboldened Russia and an assertive China. Russia's barbaric invasion of Ukraine shattered previous assumptions of European post-Cold War security, leading to sharp reappraisals of the costs of collective responsibility, and underscoring how precious and precarious are international law, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and human rights. Disregarding these principles would not only betray our values, but also imperil our nation. When we stand up for territorial integrity, whether it's in Ukraine or West Bank and Gaza, we are also standing up for the territorial integrity of the Canadian Arctic. 10 years ago, Canada's defense spending fell to less than 1% of GDP. It has since doubled in cash terms, but it's still not close enough to face these mounting risks. The brave women and men who are protecting our sovereignty do not have the resources they need for a riskier world. Our military infrastructure and equipment have aged, hindering our military preparedness. I'll give an example or two. Only one of our 4 submarines is seaworthy.
That's
Less
pathetic.
than half our maritime fleet and land vehicles are operational. More broadly, we're too reliant on the United States. And so for all those reasons, I'm announcing today that Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year, half a decade ahead of schedule.
Yeah. There it is. Canada's going to hit 2% GDP, or 2% of our GDP is actually going to go finally to our defense spending, which is a decade ahead of time. Justin Trudeau has absolutely ruined our reputation with NATO. He's ruined our potential for defense. He's left us so vulnerable. So good job. I mean, our military needs new equipment. Yeah, it costs money, sure, but something that we can all agree on. Every person with a brain can say, you can't go wrong with putting more money in your defense, especially when you're this far behind. So, I wish I could sit here and criticize them and say, well, how much is it going to cost? If it were Pierre, I'd say, why not 2? Or why 2? Why not 3 or 4%? Like, awesome job. Let's do more. And so I'm going to have that same mentality with this right now. Except not awesome job, good job, I suppose. Let's do more. 2% was yesterday's news. We should be doing 2.5%. I mean, realistically, right? Trump, even President Trump said that why is it only 2%? It should be 4. It should be 4%, or something along the lines. He said that a little while ago, but it's a step in the right direction.
And we will further accelerate our investments in years to come, consistent with meeting these new security imperatives. We'll start by changing the way we support and invest in our armed forces. We will change the way we arm the men and women who serve, so we can fight on new battlegrounds in unfamiliar territory, so we can defend every inch of our sovereign territory, from seafloor to the Arctic to cyberspace. So we can protect Canadians, our interests, and our allies. Canada's new government will rebuild, reinvest, and rearm the Canadian Armed Forces with a strategy that rests on 4 pillars. Investing in the foundations of defense, the women and men who serve, and the equipment and infrastructure that they use. Second, we will enhance and expand our military capabilities. Third, we'll strengthen Canada's defense industry.
Okay, so far we've got better equipment, so better weapons, better, I don't know, helmets, upgrade of boots, who knows, right? We don't really know what that means for equipment. More vehicles, updated rifles, updated machine guns. We don't know what that looks like. That'd be cool. Better scopes, right? We don't know what that looks like, but that's good. We can agree that we need better equipment. It's very outdated. It's very, very, very outdated. The second was, I forget what he said, but it was very broad. We're going to do something. The third one was, I wish if I just listened to it, how can I forget it? But that's how non-impactful it was. It's good. It's a step in the right direction, folks. Look, I'm not trying to blow smoke up his butt here. I'm certainly not turning into a Carney shill, but if he stays true to this, that's good. That's good. This is what we wanted Pierre to do. This is just what we wanted to happen with our country.
And we will diversify Canada's defense partnerships. I call on all parties in Parliament to support these.
Third was our defense. We're going to build a better defense system, or a defense system. So I think that's laying down the groundwork for that golden dome to take place, which is needed. I think it is. How many billions of dollars? To be honest, I don't care. I don't care how many billions of dollars it costs to build a golden dome. I personally don't care. Maybe that makes me, not smart. Maybe that makes me not realistic, whatever word you want to use, but we are so vulnerable. Our North is so vulnerable. We don't have a defense at all. We are literally relying on America. If America went on vacation and another country around the world said, you know what, now we're going to start harassing Canada and just see what that looks like. We don't have a way to defend. Okay, we got a couple planes. We have one submarine that floats or that operates. That's it. That's crazy. We don't have a defense. So build the Golden Dome, put missile defense systems out in farmlands, up in the north, on the west coast, on the east coast, put them everywhere. How many billions of dollars? I don't freaking care, man. I would rather us overspend on a defense system so that we know that we're relatively safe and we can kind of defend ourselves to future threats than not do that. That's my opinion. Maybe that's unrealistic, but that's my opinion.
Critical investments in our security and sovereignty. Our plan will help ensure that Canada is strong at home and reliable abroad. We will ensure that every dollar is invested wisely, including by prioritizing made-in-Canada manufacturing and supply chains. We should no longer send 3/4 of our defense capital spending to America. We will invest in new submarines, aircraft, ships, armed vehicles, and artillery.
Okay.
As well as new radar, drones, and sensors to monitor the seafloor and the Arctic.
Okay.
Nous allons réparer et entretenir
Why no one
les
clapped?
navires.
Why no one clapped with me? Oh, crap. Look, I'm all for it. I'm all for defense spending. I'm not pleased that it's a liberal government again. Really, I'm not. But I'm all for defense spending. And if this guy right here is actually going to pull this off and put all this money into our defense spending, then so be it, man. So be it, because we need the equipment. We need the accelerated training for this new type of warfare with drones, with cyber attacks. We need all that stuff. We need better planes. We need better boats. We need all of it. So that's half decent. That's half decent. I'm on board with it.
Les ailes Coast Guard and integrated. We will expand the reach, security mandate, and the abilities of the Canadian Coast Guard and integrate it into our NATO defense capabilities to better secure our sovereignty and expand maritime surveillance.
Okay.
As part of our new strategic approach to defense and security, we will also establish Borealis, the Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Innovation and Science. Borealis will advance cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other frontier technologies essential to safeguarding our sovereignty.
Is Canada going to be investing in some quantum computing? Just put some quantum computing research facilities in the north and middle of Saskatchewan or Alberta or Manitoba or even BC. and just throw it up there where it's cold. And then just throw like a bunch of really smart nerds up there that know about quantum computing. Build them a facility, give them all their meals, give them the devil's lettuce, give them the booze, make sure they're staying under control, and just let them do their thing. That's not half bad. Quantum computing is the future, man. One quantum computer can like outpace hundreds of thousands of specced out like gaming computers, you know, like it's just out of this world. The technology that's right there, that's ready to be unlocked and especially militarized, and Canada can really capitalize on something like this. This is good. I'm all for it. It's kind of interesting.
Nous allons pallier le
Trudeau would never do this. Trudeau is never on board with all this. So if he actually, look, he's all speak right now. It's all talk. But if he pulls this off, man, that's huge. That is game changer for Canada.
soins de santé, mais une augmentation à la moment même.
Never mind the left versus the right stuff. If Mark Carney actually pulls this off and invests this much, this quickly in our military, he just won the election. He just became prime minister like a month and a bit ago. And if he pulls this off, man, this is insane. I don't think there's a prime minister in history that has spent this much on the military this quickly after being elected. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I could get fact checked on that. But this is a lot of spending in our military and our defense in a very short amount of time in the first year. That's kind of cool. I got to say, that's kind of cool.
Et défendre nos conditions et elles arm Europe, particularly be seeking to strengthen mieux. In parallel, we are actively seeking to strengthen transatlantic security, particularly by becoming a participant in Rearm Europe. This will help diversify our military suppliers with reliable European partners and integrate the Canadian defense industry as full participants in 150 billion euros of Europe's rearmament program. To these ends, the Canada-EU summit later this month will be more important than ever. And Canada will arrive at this summit with a plan to lead, with new investments to build our strength in service of our values. This will include our support for a new NATO defense industrial pledge, which will be negotiated at the NATO summit. The Defense Industrial Pledge encompasses both assets and infrastructure that support our defense goals. Canada is confident that our economic strategy and our many strategic resources, from critical minerals to cyber, will make major contributions to NATO security.
That's good.
We will support tangible commitments from our allies to provide NATO with the necessary resolve to deter aggression and protect against all adversaries in all domains. Our fundamental goal in all of this is to protect Canadians, not to satisfy NATO accountants. Ce qui va assurer notre sécurité est celle de tous les citoyens des pays and impactfully, et celle que nous présenterons à nos alliés de l'OTAN plus tard ce mois-ci. We will undertake this transformation of our military capabilities strategically, deliberately, and impactfully. Canada's Department of National Defence will immediately design a new defense policy that reflects both today's and tomorrow's threats, informed by experts, some in this room, and the experience of allies and partners, including Ukraine. We're in the process of creating a new defense procurement agency that will be guided by that new defense industrial strategy and overseen by our newly appointed Secretary of State for Defense Procurement. The Defense Procurement Agency will centralize decision-making and move at pace to get our armed forces the equipment they need when they need it. We will ensure that Canadian workers and businesses benefit from the huge increase in defense procurement that will be required, using Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian critical minerals, Canadian cyber. Nous allons renforcer nos capacités.
Look, I know we don't like the guy, but some of the stuff he's saying is actually pretty good, right? And to anyone's rebuttal of, well, these are Pierre Poilievre's ideas, he stole them from Pierre. Yeah, but don't forget, Pierre is pro-Canada. And Pierre wanted him to, he said, just take the ideas and fix Canada. Take the ideas, they're good ideas, and fix Canada. Pierre Poilievre literally said that. So this whole idea of being like against, look, if he doesn't pull it off, then yeah, screw this guy. But when it comes to our defense spending, we are so freaking far behind, ladies and gentlemen. We all know this. We're so vulnerable. We haven't been hitting our 2% target that's been required since 2014. 2014. NATO pulled us and Germany aside and said, hey, you guys are supposed to be hitting 2%. What's up with that? Germany and Canada both agreed, okay, yeah, we'll do that in the next 10 years by 2024. We promise. We so sorry for not hitting the target. 2024 came. Germany hit 2%. Where's Canada under Justin Trudeau? 1.3% or something. Like insanely low. Our military's been unhappy. Our military's understaffed. Our military is having a hard time with its turnover rate. Our military is using old equipment. It's very underfunded. Even Aaron Gunn, who's a freaking MP now, did a whole documentary video about the Canadian military under Justin Trudeau and how Trudeau and the Liberals have absolutely screwed over our military. And now you got this guy like, screw the party stuff. Never mind, just for the defense, never mind the left versus the right. You got some guy who's coming in, who's in power immediately saying, we're going to put this much money into the defense. Great. It doesn't matter if it was the NDP. It doesn't matter if it was the Green Party. As long as somebody's doing it and actually spends the money to do it, that's good. And if it's a lot of money, who cares? It's our defense. It's our life or death. That's what it comes down to, right? So spend the money, get it done. That's what we should all be about. Of course, we can have our preference on which party got to do it, for sure, right? For legacy, for credit, for notoriety, for political status. Yeah, all those things. Phenomenal. But actually just getting it done is so important.
It will be challenging to protect Canada and Canadians against growing and changing threats, all while building a stronger Canadian economy. But these are the imperatives of a more dangerous world. And as His Majesty the King reminded us just 2 weeks ago, our greatest challenges present immense opportunities. To build the military we need, we can deploy and develop Canadian innovation, Canadian ingenuity, Canadian industry. The transformation of our military capabilities can help with the transformation of our economy. Today, national defense already accounts for over 275,000 direct and indirect jobs across the country in over 3,000 communities, every province, every territory. Our renewed commitment to defense will create tens of thousands of more fulfilling, high-paying careers for Canadian workers. It will create enormous opportunities for Canadian businesses, yes, in the defense sector, but across a link of supply chains. From the production of the raw materials, steel and aluminum, to the truckers and rail workers who ensure their transit, to those who transform those materials into equipment, weapons, ammunition, vehicles. It will help drive innovation in sectors including AI, quantum, and cyber. It will safeguard Canada, as well as our interests and allies abroad. It will build Canada strong. Nous allons assurer notre sécurité dans un monde.
Okay. Well, as long as he gets stuff done, and in terms of our defense spending, it's just good for the country. And to answer or to place a rebuttal to that defense spending. Sorry, I'm trying to pull something up here. To place a rebuttal to that defense spending, you have content creator Pierre Poilievre doing a press conference from the gallery here in Parliament. We're going to pull this up. I don't mean it as a disrespectful content creator thing. I know he's leader of the opposition. It's just weird him not having a seat. You know what I'm saying? It feels different. I know he's still Pierre. He's still the same Pierre from a few months ago, but it just feels freaking weird. I can't be the only one who thinks that. He's doing this is on his YouTube channel. This is a Pierre Poilievre YouTube live stream that he's doing right now. Right now. So we're going to take a look at it.
Decade of liberal cuts, mismanagement, and back office bureaucracy, of boondoggles, and wasted money on bungled projects. Our military has never been weaker. Now more than ever, we need a strong military that will reassert our sovereignty in the north, take back control of our Arctic waters. We need at least one, but probably two Arctic bases. We need fighter jets, Poseidon aircraft. We need 4 and not 2 icebreakers to bust up the ice and reassert that we are properly the ones that lay claim over our Arctic waters. We also need to fill the massive number of vacancies that have built up in our military after the last decade by increasing the dollars available to recruit and focusing the military on a warrior culture that actually inspires people to want to join again. All of this is going to take money, and that's why we support getting back to the 2% target as soon as possible. And we will support an additional money for our military.
There you go. Pierre Poilievre literally supports Mark Carney's decision to hit 2% this year. He just said it. That's why we support the decision to hit 2% immediately. And in fact, for any criticism that's gone towards Carney of our defense spending, I will never defend Carney. But when it comes to our defense, whoever wants to spend more gets my support. Straight up. Not my vote, but you get my support. Because we should be putting way more money into... We have one of the biggest land masses in the world. And we got no defense at all. We got one boat that floats, kinda. You gotta, like, hit it, right? You got to hit it on the top of the motor so it kind of works properly. Like, it's insane what's going on. So Pierre says he supports Carney's decision for the amount of military spending that he wants to do, but he's criticizing it, saying it's not enough, which is great. It isn't enough. We should be putting $10 trillion into our defense. We should be the iron northern fist. We should be the impenetrable ice wall that nobody can access Canada through illegal immigration, through military force. We should be unpenetrable, right? We should be putting trillions and trillions of dollars into our defense. Absolutely. We should be putting more, right? That's what everybody should be agreeing on. You want to live in Canada? You want to feel safe in Canada? Let's put money into our defense. Put money into our military. Upgrade the equipment. Learn new things. Fight the new modern warfare style, right? Because it's not just conventional battleground stuff. It's involving quantum computing. It's involving drones. That costs money. That costs resources. We should be putting more.
Terry, that's why we're calling on the government to bring in a budget, because all of this will require a budget.
Agreed.
A budget that not only puts this money forward, clearly identifies where it comes from, but cuts waste in bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, and other areas, so that the necessary increase in the military does not come as an inflationary burden on the backs of our Canadian taxpayers, who've been suffering for far too long. As always, we stand ready to work with all parties to put Canada first, to defend our country, and most important of all, to honor the brave men and women in uniform, the soldiers, sailors, and airmen who make up our forces and protect our sovereignty. We will always put them first, and we will work with anybody in any party to make that happen. Thank you very much.
You said you support this. Will you be supporting the supplementary estimates that include this $9 billion extra dollars?
Well, we have to see the supplementary estimates. What we've seen is the mains. We have, sorry?
I believe they were tabled.
Oh, they were tabled this morning. Okay, I haven't seen them yet, so that part is true. So we were both right. I'll have to take a look at the subs and see what's in there. And was there anything else in there, or is it just this?
There's definitely other things in it, I'm sure. I had a chance to parse through it.
Okay. Pierre's living that content creator life. Waking up late, drinking coffee, walking his dog if he's got one. That's kind of funny, to be honest. Not in like a ridiculous way. Like I'm just trying to make light of the situation, right? The reporter's seen it. He hasn't seen it. Maybe the two MPs behind him have seen it. That's kind of funny.
We're going to have to go to the library, the two of us, and go through the subs, I guess. Eh?
On another topic then, pipelines. I'm wondering, what would you do if there's a situation where Alberta and BC, for example, are butting heads about a project? Do you think, like Mark Carney, there needs to be consensus to go forward with these big nation-building projects?
No, we've got to get it done. We need a pipe. At the end of the day, if you wait till everybody agrees on everything, nothing will happen. You're never going to get everybody to agree on every single project. And bottom line is we're giving 90% of our oil and 100% of our gas to the Americans at enormous price discounts. This is costing us tens of billions of dollars every single year to the exclusive benefit of American refineries and commodity traders who are able to take our product, bid up the price by $15 and sell it on the world stage, and do that literally about 1 billion times a year. And that is insane. So we can't wait any longer. We have to get things done, and it's going to take some backbone. And so we as Conservatives believe in pushing ahead with pipelines, and the shortest route is to the Pacific. You know, any other route is going to be even harder politically and physically. Yeah. So we need a pipeline to the Pacific, and if the Prime Minister says he's going to wait till everyone agrees, then nothing will get done, which is what has been happening for the last decade.
Agreed. I mean, British Columbia, David Eby is the only person and the only province in the way from getting Alberta's oil to the ocean. That's it. One province. And if you want to go east, then okay, then you got to go through all the other freaking provinces, man. Right, at least right through Quebec, right to the Saint Laurent, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Go west. Go to the Pacific. Go through British Columbia, and ignore what David Eby says. And any climate activist that tries to sabotage the pipeline, freaking jail for life for you and all of your family associated. Just North Korea it. Who cares? You're going to have climate activists. This is a danger of politics. When you have politicians that are so against things like pipelines, when the pipeline eventually gets built, all of the radical left-wing nut jobs that have been following the province's guide on all this stuff, they get overly involved and start to go, well, you know what? We're just going to protest it and take matters into our own hands. And they're going to go and damage it. It's already, the writing is already on the wall. It's already there on the wall. They're going to go damage it, and Canada is too slack on crime. So we're going to have a freaking pipeline that's going to be attacked constantly by these losers, these freaking climate activists. And it's just, you need to take harder action on crime. Just forward thinking, right? Forward thinking.
To go back to defense spending.
We'll go to Stephanie, and then we'll go French.
Okay,
yeah.
Just to go back to defense spending, you talked about the need to get to 2%, but the global conversation now seems to be moving towards 5%. So
that's right.
Do you support that, and do you see a realistic way that Canada could get there?
I haven't seen anyone hit 5%. Maybe I'm missing some. Has anyone hit 5% yet?
Not yet.
Who's at 5?
Not yet.
No one.
Yeah, Poland is getting about 4%.
Poland's up to 4, but I haven't seen any country hit 5. I think the Americans are 3.6 right now.
Yeah, 3.4.
3.4. This is my human encyclopedia here. You know, what I also think we need to remember is let's focus on what we get done with the money we spend. It shouldn't simply be a question of the dollar figure. You know, if the government has another 10 big boondoggles like they did on the F-35 by canceling and then rebuying it, they would be able to get up to 3 or 4% without increasing any of our capabilities. I want us to focus on our capabilities. Yes, we'll hit the 2%, and then we can discuss how much higher to go after that. But the focus of NATO and our country has to be what extra defense capabilities are we able to add, and how can we be the strongest possible military with the most affordable price tag to the taxpayer at the same time. Thank you. Wait.
Il y a 9 milliards de dollars de
That's perfect. That's perfect. Let's get to 2%. Let's see what that looks like, and then we can reevaluate it. Like, it's easy to just throw money at something, right? It's very easy to just, when you have that billions, those billions and billions of dollars there, you can throw money on consulting fees, right? Because what are we going to spend? What are we going to spend that money on? An extra $5 billion in the military? Well, consulting fees, somebody has to decide on what to spend that money on, and it's not the federal government. Federal government writes the check. So who's deciding what to spend that money on? Well, they're the contractors. Okay, so then they hire a bunch of people to work for them. Say, okay, well, we're going to get this from Lockheed Martin, not from Boeing. We're going to get this software from Palantir. We're going to do all these things. So it trickles down. $5 billion ends up being like $3.5 or $4 billion in that, or $4.2 billion makes it to the actual equipment and money injected into the system. But the rest is all people writing their consulting fee, invoices. And that's just kind of how it's been in Canada. So we have to make sure that money is properly spent as well. So let's get to 2% this year. That's phenomenal. Pierre even agrees. Pierre agrees with me agreeing with Carney. So we're all in agreement. Let's put a shit ton of money into our defense spending. That's awesome. And then let's spend more. Let's spend more on our defense. We should be an impenetrable northern stronghold where people think, well, how do we get into America? Let's go through Canada. No, don't go through Canada. They've got all this defense spending, all this crazy stuff. You're never, ever, ever going to get through. Don't do it. So that's what we should be striving to be. All right. Anyways, now let's get into question period. Ladies and gentlemen, before we enter question period, I do want to encourage everybody to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's see if we can get some more likes here. Let's try to get over 1,000 likes on the stream. Let's try and see if we can hit 130,000 subscribers on the channel. Now let's get into question period. Here we go.
Oral questions.
Oral questions.
Conservatives have tabled a motion in this House that the Liberal government finally put forward a fiscally responsible budget. This Prime Minister says that he wants to be held to account based on what Canadians are paying for their groceries. But instead of putting forward a budget or bringing down grocery prices, he's introduced $500 billion in what we can only assume is more inflationary spending, with Canadians expected to pay an additional $800 in groceries this year over what they paid last year. Our ask is very simple for this Liberal government after 10 years of their inflationary spending.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, there will be a budget in the fall of this year, but you know what's a bit rich for Canadians watching at home is to see these Conservatives who have consistently, at every step of the way, voted against affordability measure. Right. Mr. Speaker, they voted against childcare. They voted against pharmacare. They voted against the dental program we have in Canada. Mr. Speaker, how can you stand up in this House seriously and criticize this government where at every step of the way you fail Canadian to have their back in times?
Why is he whispering, yelling, and talking softly?
Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Conservatives have consistently voted against all of the inflationary spending and their half measures that would see those savings vaporized by their continued inflationary spending, and we'll keep voting against it unless we see a responsible budget from this government for once. Moms and dads, small businesses, single Canadian seniors, they all have to table a budget. They have to live by a budget. So why is it that these Liberals, while food prices are going through the roof and moms are having to water down the milk that they give to their babies, these Liberals won't just table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of
It's
Finance.
the right thing to do, table
Mr.
budget.
Speaker, Canadians know that when we have a choice, we will always side with them, Mr. Speaker. We have sided with children in this country to make sure that it would have a national food program. We have sided with our seniors to make sure that there would be a dental program in this country. We have sided with young families, Mr. Speaker, to make sure there will be childcare. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will always side on the side of Canadians, whether they're young, whether they're seniors, whether they're workers. Canadians, we have their back. That's what we said. That's what we'll do, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Well, food prices up has replaced elbows up at grocery stores lately as food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. It's so bad now that even sale items are too expensive for Canadian families, and you'll be lucky, Mr. Speaker, if you walk out of a grocery store with 2 bags for less than $80. Inflationary spending must be reversed so Canadians can afford to put food on the table. Will the Liberals present a budget to show that they are at least trying to bring food prices down?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this new government is a government of action, and this is what action looks like. We're rapidly advancing legislation to cut tax for 22 million people, cut the tax on first home purchases, and permanently cut the consumer carbon tax. That's right. I hope, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives will cut the rhetoric and join us in advancing this legislation. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Well, the Prime Minister said that he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store, so let's do that. Food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. Canadian families will pay $800 more on food this year than last year, so there goes their tax cut. That's about $17,000 on food alone this year. Families, single moms, and seniors are at a breaking point, and this can't go on. Do the Liberals not see that their inflationary spending is doing to families, or do they just not care? Why won't the Prime Minister table a budget and show the true cost of his inflationary deficits and debts?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at some economic facts. Inflation is down from 8.1 to 1.7% over
This
the
guy's
last
trying
2
to make a name
years.
for himself.
Workforce participation is 65.3% compared to the U.S. at 62.5. We have a AAA credit rating from Moody's. Mr. Speaker, the fundamentals of our economy
Why
are
do I feel this guy's
strong,
wearing
and we're
a
going to continue to build the
compression
strongest
vest or
economy in the
something?
G7. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Lotbinière. Today, the Liberals are going to have to choose between continuing to make Canadians hungry or voting for our motion to table a budget this spring. Groceries cost a fortune, food banks are having a hard time keeping up, and they're saying there's a social emergency. All of this because of the inflationist policies of this Liberal government and this Prime Minister. And it's Sylvain Charlebois, not me, who's saying that a major part of inflation in Canada's grocery stores is caused by government policies. Will the Prime Minister table a budget this spring and end, once and for all, Liberal food inflation? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have already made their choice, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we are in power, because they know that a Liberal government is a government that is going to be there for families. It's a government that will be there for kids. It's a government that is going to be there for our seniors, Mr. Speaker. And what's really strange today for people who are watching at home is that at every opportunity that the Conservatives have had to make a choice, they have always voted against measures to help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we won't take any lessons from the Conservatives on this. We'll continue to fight for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, Lotbinière. Well, the Prime Minister himself said that he wants to be held responsible for what Canadians pay at the grocery store. He said that, and he and his government are responsible for the second worst food inflation prices in the G7. Since he's become Prime Minister, the cost of groceries has gone up by $800 per family. That's worse than under Justin Trudeau. Imagine. He's increased spending by 8% without a budget. He promised to keep it at 2%. Will he present a budget this spring, yes or no, or will he continue to be as irresponsible as his predecessor? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, the responsible thing to do is exactly what we've done, which is to cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That was the responsible thing to do. The responsible thing to do is to make sure that Canadians have more money in their pockets, Mr. Speaker. That's one of the best affordability measures there is. On this side of the House, we are going to continue to fight for families. We're going to continue to fight for kids, continue to fight for seniors. Together, Mr. Speaker, we can build a Canada strong. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the measures to break down trade barriers in Bill C-5 look like they're moving forward, but the Liberals have also included in C5 measures that would impose gas and oil pipelines on Quebecers. The Bloc Québécois is ready to work with the government on interprovincial trade, but this is a game that has to be played between two parties. If the Liberals want to collaborate, we can do that, but if they want to impose pipeline projects, there's going to be a problem. Will they split Bill C5?
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, everyone in this House agrees on one important issue, and that is that today we are at a critical moment for Canada. We are facing a tariff threat from the United States. And in this critical time, we, all members in this House, need to work together to build one Canadian economy to create the strongest economy in the G7. We need free trade across Canada. We need to build big projects. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the second part of C5, the Building Canada Act, could also be called an act to destroy the planet. Ottawa is giving itself the right to approve fossil energy projects through decree without environmental assessments or consultations. Ottawa can decide on its own. It says that it'll, quote-unquote, consult Quebec provinces and Indigenous people by putting a fait accompli in front of them. Will the Liberals realize that this is a step backwards for the environment and when it comes to respect for democracy? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, C5 is an answer to an economic crisis, a crisis that has been provoked by our southern neighbours. It's a trade crisis, and here is the answer. We have the answer. We got a mandate from Canadians to fight this tariff war, to create opportunity in Canada, and to do everything that we can to help our economy and to protect jobs in Quebec, including forestry, aluminum, steel, and other jobs in Quebec. That's our answer to the economic crisis. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, 6 weeks after the election, let's look at the Liberals' environmental record. They got rid of the consumer carbon tax. They authorized offshore oil exploration in Newfoundland. The Toronto Star has revealed that they're looking at getting rid of the emissions cap for oil and gas. And with Bill C5, they want fossil energy projects to be able to move forward without environmental assessments. According to EcoJustice, no law has ever given more power to the government in the entire history of modern environmental law. So at the end of the day, what's the difference between the Liberals and Pierre Poilievre? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Well, there's a huge difference between a Liberal government and a Pierre Poilievre government. We think that we need to protect the environment, and we are working on that every single day. We are working to make sure that we have clean energy, and we will continue to do our homework to make sure that we can build Canada strong while protecting the environment.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, the cost of groceries and food prices continue to skyrocket. This year alone, the cost of apples is up 19%. Beef strip loin is up 34%. White rice is up 14%, and infant formula is up 9%. We know this Liberal government's deficit spending drives inflation and leads to higher prices at the grocery store. Will the minority Liberal government table a budget that reverses this inflationary spending so Canadians can afford to put food on their table?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, child poverty is down 38% since 2015, and overall 26% in the general population 18 to 65, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, the party opposite could help by not voting against things that make it better for Canadians, like things like the Canada Child Benefit or dental care or the school food program or supports for apprentices. Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, the Conservative Party stands in the way of families.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he wants to be held accountable for what Canadians pay at the grocery store. This year, Canadians are spending $800 more on groceries And the Barrie Food Bank is now supporting upwards of 7,000 people per month, 37% of which are children. Instead of offering relief and a real fiscal plan, this Prime Minister is spending $500 billion without telling Canadians where the revenue is coming from. When will this Prime Minister table a budget that fights inflation so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of support that Canadians are asking for. And that's why they elected us, Mr. Speaker, because they know that when things are difficult for Canadians, that they can count on the Liberal government to be there for them, whether it's to help raise healthy children, make sure their kids get a good breakfast in the morning, or make sure that they too can afford childcare so that they can continue to grow and earn great livings across this country. Mr. Speaker, we'll be there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Ponoka-Didsbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's official. This new Liberal Prime Minister refuses to present a spring budget, even though Canadians have been without one for over a year. But in that time, students have had budgets, families have budgets, small businesses have budgets, towns and cities have budgets, provinces and territories all have budgets, banks have budgets. Pretty sure Brookfield's got a budget. So why doesn't this government have a budget? The last guy thought that budgets balance themselves. Does the new guy think that budgets just draft and table themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
And Mr. Speaker, he failed to mention one, and Canada will have a budget in the fall, Mr. Speaker, of this year. That's one thing that he forgot to mention to Canadian. But you know what is responsible to do, Mr. Speaker? Is the first thing we did when we came to this House was to lower tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's something that they failed to mention. That's the type of thing that Canadians at home are watching, and they know with our motion and them voting for the bill, Mr. Speaker, by July 1st, their tax will come down. That's what Canadians expect. That's what we deliver.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Field, BC and the Rockies to the ranchlands of Kamloops tell me that family budgets are being destroyed by Liberal inflationary spending. The Prime Minister wants to be held to account by what Canadians pay at the grocery store. Today we're debating our Conservative motion calling for a budget as soon as possible. Will this Liberal government table a budget and reverse their inflationary spending so that Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
A budget would be real nice.
The Honourable Secretary of State?
For seniors.
Seniors, that's what I figured. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise in this House for the first time as the member for Esquimalt Saanich Sioux. Mr. Speaker, this government is doing important work to ensure that we are protecting vulnerable Canadians, including vulnerable seniors, and that's why we continue to stand up for seniors. We're restoring eligibility to age 65 with the Old Age Security Program, and this is an important step to defend vulnerable seniors from falling into poverty. This policy also helps to protect low-income seniors who depend heavily on OAS and GIS.
The Honourable Member for
Hey, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you guys hit the like button.
After the lost Liberal decade by Justin Trudeau and company, our military is gutted and Canada has been left weaker, poorer, and defenseless. For 10 years, these Liberals failed to take our national defence and security seriously, instead relying on our allies to defend Canada's sovereignty. The Canadian Armed Forces is facing a devastating recruitment crisis and does not have enough soldiers, sailors, and aircrew. And only half of our military equipment is serviceable. Why should Canadians believe this Prime Minister will fix what his Liberals have already broken?
And that's a phenomenal question.
The Honourable Minister
Why should we
for
believe
Veterans
it?
Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, today is a good day for Canada.
You are not a military representative.
This morning,
MP.
the Prime Minister announced a $9.3 billion investment in Canada's defence, which means we will achieve NATO's 2% target this fiscal year.
Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defense.
Investment in defence since the end of the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you on this side of the House, we're thankful to those who serve, past and present.
But who's this John Lennon guy at the top right? You see that? It's all talk, but where's the actual
Mr. Speaker,
proof?
nobody believes them. After 10 years of these Liberals, our warships are rusting out, our fighter jets are worn out, and our troops are burnt out. Today, the Canadian Armed Forces is short 13,000 troops due to those Liberals' recruitment and retention crisis. An additional 10,000 personnel are undertrained and undeployable. Over the past decade, the Liberals lapsed $12 billion in defense spending and cut $2.7 billion over the last year from the military. Why would our troops leave anything this Liberal government says, since the Liberals are responsible for breaking our military?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If it happens, that's good.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, today is a great day for Canada, for our allies and our partners around the world are watching. I find it surprising that the Conservatives want to talk about supporting and equipping forces when they're the ones who cut Canada's defense spending to below 1%. Rebuild and bolster our armed forces and our defense industrial capacity. We will ensure Canada remains strong, sovereign, and secure. Yes.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of these Liberals, our fighter jets are worn out, our warships are rusting, our troops are exhausted. We're missing 13,000 troops. Recruitment and morale has never been lower. Over the last Liberal decades, the Liberals cut $12 billion in defense spending and cut the budget. Our forces have been abandoned. Mr. Speaker, how can a government who is responsible for this fiasco claim to be unaware of this fiasco and claim to fix it? The Honourable Minister of Industry. The Canadian Armed Forces were abandoned by the Conservatives, but certainly not by this government. Today, we are announcing investments that are historic for our defense. We will build ships in Canada. Planes in Canada. We'll be creating jobs here in Canada. We'll be creating jobs in Quebec and across the country, and we will protect our sovereignty.
Oh, God, that's so funny.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton.
Where did you
Mr.
even
Speaker, Ottawa's
get
just announced $9 billion in new defence spending for this year.
Surplus store?
In the current global context, the Bloc Québécois agrees that we need to invest in defence.
Oh,
but
man.
That's $9 billion more. Thank you. Could applaud as well. That's $9 billion more that the Liberals are asking us to approve blindly without a budget or even an economic update.
So much that we couldn't hear.
Nobody will know how this money is going to be financed, nor how big the deficit is going to be when we're expected to vote on these measures. Can the Liberals finally be responsible enough to show us what the books look like? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to say that I'm very happy that the Bloc Québécois is in agreement with our plan to rearm the Canadian Armed Forces, that they agree with the historic investments today, that they agree that we should meet our NATO commitment of 2%. This extra spending that's necessary to defend Canada's sovereignty and protect Canada. I thank the Bloc for agreeing with this ambitious plan for the country. And I would also like to note that on the weekend, we were at the Davie Shipyards, which celebrated its 200th anniversary, which is contributing to Canada's sovereignty by building excellent warships here in Quebec. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the $9 billion in defense spending announced today adds to $26 billion over 5 years in tax cuts. You can add $4 billion for the GST exemption for new homes. That's on top of $38 billion in the main estimates. And that's all of that together more than the entire healthcare system budget for Quebec. The Liberals are asking us to support all this without putting forward a budget. Mr. Speaker, it's completely irresponsible. Why is the government doing everything it can to hide the real state of public finances? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I think that all the colleagues here in this House of Commons saw a historic minute just a few years ago. We heard that the Bloc Québécois wants to build a strong Canada. It's a historic moment for all parliamentarians. We agree with the Bloc because we've made a generational investment in our defense, Mr. Speaker.
Well,
a major
you
investment in our
pledged it.
energy, our industry, as the Minister of Industry just said. It's a major investment in our workers. It's employees at Bombardier, at Davy, elsewhere, who are thrilled because Canada is investing in its sovereignty and in its industrial base.
Honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Liberals are hiding the state of Canada's finances from Canadians. The so-called brilliant banker who said his strength was planning isn't planning on actually producing a budget for Canadians. Meanwhile, 1 million Ontarians used a food bank last year, a terrible new record, and unemployment in the GTA has now surged to almost 9%. Guess what? No budget. How bad are the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner isn't planning to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, we increased CCB, we delivered $10 a day daycare, we put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage was increased, dental care, pharmacare, all of these programs have reduced child poverty by 38% since 2015, seniors poverty down by 30% since 2015. All these things the Conservatives have voted against.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
We voted against all the policies that led to 1 million Ontarians using a food bank. They should all be ashamed of themselves that that's their performance. Meanwhile, TD Bank has now said up to 100,000 Canadians will lose their job this year. And guess what? They refuse to produce a budget. 20% bankruptcies in Canada have surged 20%. Guess what? They're not going to produce a budget. I ask again, what is so terrible about the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner is refusing to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister
I mean, we absolutely need and deserve a budget.
Mr. Speaker,
without a
I'm
doubt.
pleased to talk about this list again because I think it's so important. We increased the CCB, delivered $10 daycare, put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage has been increased, dental care, pharmacare, all these programs have reduced poverty in all age groups. These are the things that Conservatives voted against.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Well, that's a record stuck on skip, Mr. Speaker. But Canadians are now facing the consequences of this Liberal government's economic drift. Oxford Economics says that Canada is heading into a recession with 200,000 more job losses and unemployment reaching 7.7% this year. Full-time workers are turning to food banks in record numbers, and mortgage defaults are rising. Meanwhile, the Liberal government wants to spend a record $500 billion with no plan. Will the Prime Minister show some accountability to the Canadians who are going to be losing their jobs and do his job and table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of relief that Canadians are looking for, on top of all the programs and supports for Canadians, whether they have children, whether they're seniors in low income. We expect then, with all of this concern, that we'll see support from the Conservative Party and things like our One Canadian Economy Bill, Mr. Speaker, which is going to even further enhance opportunities for Canadians to have well-paying jobs all across the country.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthur-Basker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to remind the Prime Minister that he leads a minority government.
No!
And that the majority of elected members of the House of Commons voted in favour of tabling a budget this spring. This morning, I was present for the Conservative motion, but there's been no response. I'll try my luck here. 2 simple yes or no questions. 1. Does the Prime Minister respect this institution that is the House of Commons? And 2, will he respect the will of the majority of elected members and table the budget? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, 2 answers. Yes, we do respect the House of Commons, and yes, there will be a budget tabled in the fall of 2025, Mr. Speaker. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we're working for Canadians. I know that we have new colleagues in the House, including him, but no doubt he's heard the great news for people in his riding that there will be a 22 million Canadian tax cut and I'm sure that he'll call people in his riding so that they can all celebrate a great moment for Canadian taxpayers. The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthur Basker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question, for his answer rather, but the answer was wrong. He said there'd be a budget in the fall, but we want it in the springtime. A recession is looming with a possible loss of 100,000 jobs, according to TD Bank. Already, full-time workers are using food banks in record numbers. We are seeing an increase in missed mortgage payments and a housing crisis that is developing throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are worried, and with good reason. We need a budget this spring. When will we get a budget? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's true that Canadians need support, and support that the federal government is doing. But the Conservatives voted every time against Quebec and Canadian families through the childcare benefit, through the dental care system that allowed people to save an average of $900. Thousands of people in his riding were helped. Millions were saved through dental care and childcare and affordable housing. There's a number of programs, and they should finally start voting with us to help Canadians.
For Winnipeg South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next week, Canada will host the leaders of the world's advanced economies at the G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis. This meeting comes amid rising geopolitical tension and increasing disruption to global supply chains. As global challenges intensify, the G7 must meet this moment with purpose and with force. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs share with this House Canada's priorities for this critical summer?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the member from Winnipeg South for the question. The world is facing geostrategic challenges, and Canada is ready to lead. Canada has what the world wants and the values to which the world aspires. As president of the G7, Canada will leverage our strength to seek new agreement on protecting our communities and the world, building energy security, and securing the economic partnerships of the future. The world needs more Canada, and we will deliver.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are being crushed by the housing crisis. The Liberals' own internal documents admit that housing now eats up 52% of household income. Mortgage delinquencies are at a record high.
To 35,
families can't keep
50.
up. Young people can't get in. And this Liberal government will not show us a plan. Mr. Speaker, a budget is a plan. And while Canadians suffer, these Liberals refuse to present a budget that will solve the housing crisis. My question is very simple. Why?
The Honourable Member of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this government is committed to taking action on housing, and that's why we've rolled out the GST break for first-time home buyers, saving them $50,000 up to $1 million purchase. That's why we've rolled out a tax break for 22 million Canadians to help them afford housing. We are taking action, and we will continue to take action at a pace that I hope the members opposite will support us on.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what we know now. We know now that Toronto and Vancouver are two of the most unaffordable cities in the world. We know that the cost to construct a residential building in Canada has increased by 58% in the last 5 years. We also know that this latest housing minister increased home building taxes by 141% while he was mayor of Vancouver. And we know that the TD Bank has declared that this government will not come close to their promise to build 500,000 new homes per year. Mr. Speaker, are the Liberals refusing to deliver a plan because they don't actually have a real one?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has been very clear about our plan for housing, the most ambitious plan for housing in Canadian history, and that is Build Canada Homes, that is moving forward on actions, concrete actions that will save people money.
That's right.
We are going to take action for multi-unit residential buildings that we hope the members opposite will support in the fall to increase rental supply. We are going to take action across the board, particularly on affordable housing, and we expect support in this House.
We do.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
The housing minister who
increased building taxes by 141% the last time he had a chance should be aware that Oxford's Global Cities Index found that residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than any other city in the world. But the man in charge of housing doesn't think that's a problem. He says that housing prices shouldn't go down, period. So if he doesn't think that housing prices should go down, can he tell the residents of Toronto just how much more of their income they're going to have to spend on their homes?
Put a W down your chat from Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got to say it's refreshing to hear the members opposite actually care about affordable housing, because they never did anything about it. That's right. That made life very difficult for mayors and premiers and housing ministers across the country that saw no support for 10 years from the members opposite in their government.
Very true.
We are taking action. We are committed to scaling up that action with Build Canada Homes and direct action in these weeks and months ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Speaker, forgive me if I'm a bit skeptical of the housing minister who increased the price of housing by 179% in just 8 years in Vancouver. They broke housing. They fueled inflation that drove up rates. They rewarded those who blocked housing construction. They supercharged immigration numbers that outpaced the availability of housing. He says we need affordable housing. Great. But then he turns around and says that home prices shouldn't go down. Both of these things cannot be true, so which one is it?
Well said.
Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm frankly not surprised to hear the confusion on the other side of the House when you put the words affordable and housing together.
That's right.
We're taking action on it, Mr. Speaker, and though the federal government does not control the price of housing, we want to see the overall cost of housing come down. That's why we are investing in local partnerships with cities across Canada to bring the development cost charges down for housing and deliver affordability.
Honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, after a lost decade of this Liberal government, housing in Toronto is unaffordable. Last week, we learned that new home sales are at a record low. Now, according to Oxford Economics, as a result of high immigration, quote, residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than the residents of nearly every other city in the world. You'd think that would prompt the Liberals to present a serious plan. Instead, they want to break for the summer without a plan. Speaker, will the Prime Minister respect the will of this House and pass a budget before his summer vacation?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I really like to believe that all members of this House are sincere in their desire to make life better for Canadians. Hear, hear. That they want to make life more affordable, that they want to get more homes built. And that is why I really hope that the members on the opposite side of the House will join us in supporting the One Canadian Economy legislation. This will help us build more homes faster. It will bring down prices for Canadians by 15% if we can remove all trade barriers in our own country.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for York Centre.
The Minister of Housing said he doesn't want to bring down prices for Canadians. But Speaker, Toronto residents can't afford a roof over their head. When I knocked on doors this spring, voters would tell me that they can't afford their mortgage. Or in apartments, they'd say, Roman, I can't afford my rent. It's heartbreaking. Liberal immigration policies are forcing Torontonians to spend more on their income on housing than anyone else on planet Earth. But the Prime Minister is failing Canadians and refuses to listen to this House. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister deliver a budget?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, one of the policies the Prime Minister campaigned on was building modular housing. That is a way to get more homes built faster, and we know that
all modular,
by removing barriers to internal trade in our country, we can get a modular housing industry going in our country. Exactly. That is one of the solutions to the housing crisis. I hope the members opposite will be constructive
no
and
sticks and
support
bricks.
this important
So modular now. You know who has modular?
Durham.
Mr. Speaker, my generation refuses to live in a shipping container.
I mean, I'm personally all right with it.
Oxford Economics reports yesterday that Toronto's housing market ranks among the worst in the world for affordability. At the same time, mortgage delinquency rates in Toronto are higher than at any time during the pandemic. The financial burden is suffocating the next generation of homebuyers. And history has shown us, Mr. Speaker, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail.
Yeah.
A budget is a plan, Mr. Speaker. So my question to the Prime Minister is, when will Canadians see one?
I mean, they've already said fall.
The Honourable Minister of
You shouldn't be asking, wasting a question like
Mr.
that.
Speaker, I've traveled all across this country. It's a huge privilege of this job, and I visited families in every riding from every walk of life, and I can tell you that modular housing, which provides a housing solution for so many families, is not a shipping container. And to speak with such a demeaning tone about families that are living in a variety of different kinds of housing really indicates the kind of disrespect
Olivia
that the
Chow in
Conservative Party
Toronto,
of
the
Canada
mayor,
has
literally is
for
building
low-income
shipping
Canadians
container
and
homes
middle-income
for
Canadians.
seniors.
The honourable
That's so
member for
disingenuous.
Northumberland Clark. Mr. Speaker, tents are not houses.
That's right.
The Prime Minister told us during the campaign that Canada was facing the biggest crisis of our lifetime. Well, here's a crisis. In 2015, housing costs were an average of 38% of Canadian household budgets. Today, it's overwhelming. It's 52%.
Wow.
A recent study found that Toronto residents spend more of their income on housing than
Someone
nearly
already used an
every other
exact
city in the
talking
world.
point.
We were told that the Prime Minister, well, he's the man with a plan. Canadians want to see it, and time is of the essence. When are we going to get a budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State
They've already
for the
said
Canada
fall.
Revenue.
How many times are you going to ask
Mr.
when?
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, maybe the member opposite should ask himself, look in the mirror, ask his colleagues why they voted against every housing initiative we put forward over the last several years. Rapid Housing Initiative, Federal Co-Investment Fund, the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. Their own leader told them not to support the program while the MPs themselves were trying to advocate for it. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
The honourable member for Sarnia
The Conservatives are wasting questions.
Well, Housing Accelerator, $4 billion, 0 homes built. But meanwhile, housing prices have doubled, rent has doubled, down payments have doubled, and people are now defaulting on their mortgages at record rates due to the disastrous inflationary spending of this Liberal government. A federal memo confirms that housing will consume 52% of the household budget this year, up from 38% in 2015. So they know they caused this problem. When will the government table a budget with a plan to give the hope of home ownership back to young people?
We've already heard they're doing it in fall. Why are you asking when are they doing it?
Mr. Speaker, this government is taking action on delivering affordability, and we've done that with a tax cut for 22 million Canadians.
That's true.
We've done that with a cut to the GST for first-time homebuyers. We will continue to do that with actions throughout this year, and we expect the members opposite to support this. This is a new voice. Suddenly there's concern from the Conservatives who never voted for affordable housing, never supported a single initiative on affordable housing.
There's so many other questions to ask other than when are they tabling the budget.
The government introduced the
They've already
One
said in
Canadian
fall.
Economy
They should be
legislation. The bill removes
rearranging
federal
their
internal trade
questions to ask
barriers
something
and
that's more
advances national
impactful.
interest projects, providing a framework to strengthen the Canadian economy. Can the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade share what she's heard from Canadians about this very important bill?
Good question.
Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
How wonderful to finally get a great question.
Go figure.
For her hard work and for her focus on an issue I am hearing about from premiers of provinces and territories, from union leaders, from business leaders, from Canadians of all walks of life. Canadians understand that now when our economy is being battered by tariffs from the United States, now we need to build a strong Canada by lifting all barriers to internal trade and by building big national projects. I'd like to call on all members of this House to support this essential legislation.
The honourable member for Saskatoon University.
The Prime Minister and his anti-energy ministers say there's no pipelines in Canada without consensus. But there's no even consensus in the Prime Minister's cabinet. The Prime Minister is stacked with that cabinet with ministers that want to kill the Canadian oil and gas industry. But there's not even consensus in the Prime Minister's own head. He said he wanted to make Canada an energy superpower. But also he said, open quotes, maybe as much as half of the oil reserves, but proven oil reserves need to stay in the ground. In the Prime Minister's head, who gets a pipeline veto?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
We presented the One Canadian Economy bill to fast-track projects of national interest and build one economy, not 13. This bill will grow the Canadian economy and support our sovereignty to ensure we build the strongest economy in the G7. Canada's new government will work with provincial, territorial, and Indigenous partners to get projects built and make Canada an energy superpower. I hope my Conservative colleagues will join us in supporting this bill.
The honourable member for Saskatoon University.
Same old Liberals. Our allies, like Germany, are desperately needing of energy. And Canada has the energy, but due to 10 years of anti-energy policies from the Liberals, they have blocked all pipelines in Canada, and we can't sell to Germany. Now the German ambassador says they will need to import LNG from America. This Prime Minister is selling out our country by sending our jobs and our wealth to the States. Does the Prime Minister not realize that no one is building pipelines in Canada because of the Liberal anti-energy laws, or is the Prime Minister's plan all along to keep it in the ground?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Canada's new government will get projects built, create high-paying jobs, and bring greater prosperity to Canadians. That's why we presented the One Canadian Economy bill, which will fast-track projects of national interest. If my Conservative colleagues want to get projects built, they should support the bill. And let me be clear, we will do this while respecting Indigenous rights. By working with Indigenous partners and premiers, we will build the strongest economy in the G7.
The strongest economy in the G7. Oh, yeah. For sure, bud.
Du Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katsikomique, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the German ambassador said yesterday that he still wants to import our natural gas. C69, C48, the production cap, the industrial carbon tax. This Liberal government is stifling our economic growth with its anti-energy measures. When will the Liberal Prime Minister finally allow Canadians to build pipelines, help our allies, and make the best of our resources by abolishing once and for all its anti-development agenda? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, we won't be learning any lessons from the Conservatives. When they were government, they were also unable to build pipelines because they didn't carry out environmental assessments, they didn't consult Indigenous people, so they have nothing to say. What we will do is build a strong Canada, and a Canada that will take care of the environment, and a Canada that will consult Indigenous peoples. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Midi. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Summer Jobs Programme provides young Canadians from coast to coast to coast with the opportunity to gain valuable work experience during the summer, thus allowing them to acquire and develop job skills for the future. Since 2020, this programme has helped create more than 454,000 job opportunities for young Canadians. Can the Secretary of State inform Canadians of the status of this important programme for the summer of 2025?
For youth and children and youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleague for Rivière-du-Midi for her important question. To build a strong economy with the best G7 workforce, our young people need to develop their skills and gain workplace experience. That is the reason for which your new government has gone even further by creating up to 6,000 additional summer jobs for young people this year, bringing the total to 76,000 jobs. I encourage young Canadians to apply for these exciting opportunities.
Member for London Fanshawe. Mr. Speaker, last week dozens of skilled workers at General Dynamics Land Systems in London were laid off, leaving many London families in uncertainty. In addition, Ontario lost over 25,000 manufacturing jobs since last May alone.
That's a lot.
Canada's unemployment rate has climbed to 7%, the highest level since 2016 outside of COVID. Meanwhile, record mortgage defaults and soaring food prices are forcing even full-time workers to rely on food banks. When will the Liberals admit the harm of their policies have caused and table a budget that gets General Dynamics employees back to work?
Hear, hear. L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker,
jobs in this country. We'll invest in our manufacturing sector. We'll invest in the steel and aluminum sector. And that is why the announcement that the Prime Minister did today is pivotal. It will create jobs across different industries, including at GDLS, including in his riding. And we will also make sure that we build Canada through national major projects. That's why we need to support the bill that is called Win Canadian.
She looks like she's right off the set of MASH or something, you know?
The honourable member
Go unnecessary.
Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no way in God's green earth that Bill C-5 is ready for passage. Concerns and alarms have been raised by every environmental law association in Canada, by the Climate Action Group, by now the Grand Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, and the Canadian Cancer Society has pointed out that the interprovincial barriers that may come down may lead to a race to the bottom on health and environmental risks. Please, will the government redraft and reintroduce a bill that has a hope of passage?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
She can't afford to fly out to
I'd like
Ottawa.
to thank the member for Saanich Gulf Island for her hard work and her real commitment to Canadians. I'm really glad that she raised the issue of interprovincial barriers to trade.
Screaming.
The fact is that today we effectively impose a 7% tariff on each other. Canadians imposing a tariff on Canadians with these interprovincial barriers to trade. Now is the moment when Canadians understand we need to stop doing this. We need to knit our country more closely together. We need to build the strongest economy.
Why weren't you saying this under Justin Trudeau? See, this is what's so disingenuous about politics.
To an end.
And we all see it. I don't have to talk about it.
Will,
no, we're not seeing. We're not seeing who's up in the gallery. We're not doing that again. I did not see that coming. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this live stream. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you, I don't know, I want to say enjoyed it, but this wasn't really enjoyable. At least it's not as enjoyable or entertaining as it is with Pierre Poilievre. Influencer, content creator Pierre Poilievre, who's speaking from the, where was he speaking? Press gallery, hallway, or something like that. Anyways, he'll be back hopefully soon. Pierre had a good, there was a good chunk of this live stream that was dedicated towards Pierre speaking in a response to Mark Carney's latest announcement that he did early this morning, which is saying that we're going to achieve 2% contribution for our defense spending, which is good. And Pierre's summary was, I agree, but we should be doing more, which again is something that I freaking said too. So thanks for watching. If you haven't yet already, hit the like button on the stream. It does help it push it out further, especially after I hit end stream. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 130,000 smackaroos. And I will see you guys same time tomorrow for another stream and a follow-up for the news before question period begins. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your day.